Æthelred was coronated at the very tender age of just 13 years after the murder of his older half-brother Edward the Martyr. He would rule for a total of 37 years. For the next 3 years, small groups of Danish raiders attacked English towns. Hampshire, Thanet, and Cheshire in 980, Devon and Cornwall in 981, and Dorset in 982. There wasn't another raid until 988 in Devonshire. This time, the local thanes fought back, but the outcome of the battle is unknown. August of that year, a rather large Danish fleet attacked many towns in southeast England. They started in Folkestone in Kent, then they went up to Northey Island and occupied it. They headed west next to a town named Malden. An ealdorman named Bertoth and his men were waiting for them. The battle that ensued inspired a poem called the Battle of Malden. Bertoth and his men fought against the raiders but lost the battle. After the Battle of Malden, Æthelred decided to give a tribute of 10,000 pounds to the Danish raiders, but they continued to attack the coast until 994. They then turned their attention towards London. The following battle resulted in a draw. Æthelred and the Danish signed a treaty that agreed on 3 things. First, that both sides would forget everything that happened in the past year. Secondly, Æthelred would pay the Danish 22,000 pounds of silver and gold. And lastly, certain disputes about trade would be settled. After the treaty, the leader of the Danish raiders agreed to never return with hostility in his heart. But in 997, the Danish raids resumed. This time, they attacked Cornwall, Devon, western Somerset, and South Wales. They then attacked Dorset, Hampshire, and Sussex in 998, and Kent in 999. In 1000, they left for Normandy, maybe because Æthelred refused to pay them. The next year, the Danish returned and attacked Sussex. They tried to attack Devon but were beaten at Exeter. The spring of 1002, Æthelred again paid the Danish for peace, this time in the amount of 24,000 pounds. Later that year, someone told Æthelred that the Danish would kill him, his counselors, and rule his kingdom. He was finally fed up, and on November 13th, 1002, on St. Brice's Day, he ordered that all the Danish men in England should be killed. It is unknown how many Danes were killed in the St. Brice's Day massacre. What is known is that a woman named Gunhild and her husband Palig were killed. Gunhild was the sister of Sweyn Forkbeard, King of Denmark and Norway. Naturally wishing to avenge the death of his sister and brother-in-law, Forkbeard decided to invade England in 1003, and in 1004 he was in East Anglia sacking Norwich. In 1005, Forkbeard went back to Denmark because of heavy losses he had suffered and a famine that had struck all of England that year. He returned the next year, and in 1007 he was paid 36,000 pounds by Æthelred. For 2 years, England was free from invasion. In this time, a new fleet of English warships were created, but one of the commanders became a pirate. After this, Æthelred and his council decided it was a better idea to not use the warships. In 1009, a Danish army led by Thorkel the Tall and his brother Hemming invaded England. They raided until they received 48,000 pounds in April of 1012. The next year, Forkbeard invaded England again. this time driving Æthelred into exile in Normandy. Forkbeard then declared himself King of England, and the nobles, who no longer had faith in Æthelred, supported him. In his mid-20s, Forkbeard rebelled against his father, Harold Bluetooth, and took his throne in 986. After that, he forced his father into exile, and shortly after, his father died. From 986 to 995, he was the king of Norway, but then the throne was taken by Olaf I. Forkbeard didn't retake the throne until after Olaf's death in 1000. The year before his death, he became the first Dane to ever rule England. Forkbeard wanted his son Canute the Great to rule England after him. The Danish in England also wanted Canute to rule next, but the English nobles didn't. They sent word to Æthelred to negotiate his return to the throne. They made an agreement. First, Æthelred was to declare his loyalty to the nobles. Secondly, he was to forgive everything that had been said or done to him in his previous reign. And lastly, he was to change all the rules the nobles didn't agree with. Æthelred easily retook the throne with the help of Olaf II, who was the new king of Norway. Besides, the only English people that supported Canute was the people of North Lincolnshire. Canute and his army left England in April of 1014. In 1016, Æthelred's son Edmund Ironside revolted against him and took the Danelaw. The Danelaw was a part of England that preferred Danish laws over that of English laws. The people of the Danelaw were angry at Æthelred and Canute. Therefore, they supported Edmund. Father and son were at odds until Canute returned. Edmund went to London to protect it and to reunite with his father. Unfortunately, 2 months later, Æthelred died in April of 1016. Æthelred was an unpopular king, and because of this, there are many scathing tales that are told about him. One such tale is that when he was a child, he relieved himself in the baptismal font. St. Dunstan saw this and foretold that during Æthelred's reign the English monarchy would be overthrown. But this tale is also attributed to another unpopular ruler in another land. Another sign of his unpopularity was his name, Æthelred the Unready. The name Æthelred itself means noble counsel or noble advice, and unready, which in Old English was unread, meant evil counsel. The pairing of these two words turned his name into a pun. One good thing Æthelred created was the first local police force. Well, sort of. He ordered that in every district 12 thanes were to be tasked with publishing the names of all the wicked men in their district. Whether he was right or wrong in his decisions, one thing is true. His reign was a very chaotic and violent time. I think that should be taken into account when judging his time on the throne. Do not forget to leave a like and subscribe if you have enjoyed this video. And if you already have, thank you very much. La, la.